just
I can't believe
go
she
to a
has seen it.
big school. That's
So what
my
is that?
first-
No introductions needed. We know who she is. Thank you for all giving a little bit of your time on a Sunday.
Just do a transition.
To hear what's going on with Robin in our southern hemisphere.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for coming out. I'm really excited to talk about what I've been working on, and I'm sure everybody's heard like bits and pieces, but it's a big project, so takes a little explanation too. But yeah, so I went down to Guatemala in Central America about 4 years ago for the first time, and fell in love with Central America, was exploring, volunteering, looking for different projects, and mostly environmental work and nonprofits, and I found Long Way Home. Ooh, small.
Oh, now Pam's here for life.
Okay. So I found Long Way Home as a volunteer, and I stayed there for about a month volunteering with Long Way Home, and what they do is different types of construction, and they're building a school out of green building techniques, which is using all local sourced material as well as different types of trash and different types of techniques that can be earthquake resistant, and using local materials and cutting the cost of regular conventional building materials. And so when I was there, we were digging in the dirt a lot. We were building an earth bag structure that's now my office and where I live. And so it's really been beautiful. So I was there for a month as a volunteer, and then heard about a job opportunity that opened up and decided to go back and join the project. So I started as the volunteer coordinator almost 3 years ago, and now this last year and a half I was the director of development, and now the project manager this last year. So it's really been a great, beautiful experience growing with the organization and helping them kind of move forward as well. So Long Way Home was started as a 501c3 in about 2004. Our founder, Matt, who was a Peace Corps volunteer in Comalapa, which is the community that we're in. And so he was a Peace Corps volunteer in the early 2000s. At the end of his volunteer time, the local organization that he was working with actually asked him to help them get funds to help build a park. So that's where Long Way Home started, was starting as a nonprofit so that they could build this recreational space, which now has a regulation-sized soccer field, organic gardens, a community kitchen, basketball courts, and has really been a community park. But as you can probably guess, recreational space was not on the top of the priority list for a lot of people in the community. As they were working on the park, they saw kids coming in with all kinds of stomach issues and respiratory illnesses, and the people, the community didn't have jobs. There's about an 86% unemployment rate in San Juan Comalapa. Most students don't make it past 6th grade education because they either have to get pulled out because their families can't afford it, or they have to help in their homes. And there's a lot of health issues. Respiratory illnesses is one of the leading causes of death in the community from smoke and burning their trash. The streets are polluted. So sort of taking a holistic approach to all of these issues and more, they decided to, once they finished the park, to start building the school. So they started the school in 2009, and we're still building, but it's a full running school at the moment. So right this last year we had kindergarten through 9th grade and had 126 students in our school. And next year we're going to be opening up the high school, which is really exciting. It's the next phase, but we'll have capacity for up to 12th grade once we're finished. So this was earlier last year that we had all of our staff and students and everybody, and these are the gardens of the school here. And this is the full school. It's kind of hard to get a full panoramic shot, but we have a little housing development over here. These are some of the classrooms. This here is where I live in my office there. And then we have the primary school classrooms here, and this is what the gardens that we just saw in that photo. And then we have another 4 classrooms here, and our newest building is going to be the administration building that's all the way on the end there. The area is about almost 2 acres of the school, and it's a long property there. With the mission, our holistic approach is education, employment, and environmental stewardship to help actually break the cycle of poverty, give them the tools that they need to do it themselves. So this last year we had over 40 full-time staff between construction and the teachers, the school staff. We had 18 school staff between the teachers and the director and the secretary of the school. All of our full-time employees are Komalapan from the community. We have a team of 4 foreigners, including myself right now. And but we've just grown this year to take on more local administration staff and things like that as well. But the full-time employment, we are one of the largest consistent employers in the community, and that I'd say right now is probably our largest impact, is the fact that we can provide full-time employment. We also use trash to build. So these are a couple of buildings. Like I said, this is actually my office here and bedroom there. We've used over 15,500 tires in the school, and over 400, right now it's actually 410 tons of trash that we've used. And so we use it in all different forms for the buildings, which are also earthquake resistant. There's very little forms of trash that we have not been able to repurpose and use within construction or any of the art and sculptures and stuff around the school too. This is one of our other buildings. These were actually the first buildings that were built at the school. So these are built out of tires in the walls, and then glass bottles you can see here too. We use so this is how we compact a tire. Each tire is packed. It takes about 30 minutes to an hour depending on the size and the person compacting the tire. But like I said, over 15,000 tires have been packed this way, with thousands of people working on them. And so, sorry?
Is that sand?
It's dirt. So we excavate the dirt from where we're gonna put the tire, place the tire, and then pack it with the dirt that we had to take out to put in the tire. To do the buildings, we have to dig about 6 courses, layers of tires into the ground for the foundation. And sometimes they have to get packed with gravel and other parts, but the tires are earthquake resistant as well, and so with Guatemala being an earthquake zone, it creates it has a safe. We had a 6 point something earthquake a few years ago, and we barely had cracks in the buildings. And the other technique that we use called earth bags as well, which are grain sacks stuffed with dirt, are also earthquake resistant, and locally sourced materials.
Who supplies the tires? Is that something that
we pick them up from local? There's a lot of tire changing places called basically car workshops, but there's lots of tires available. And so we go pick them up with the truck. We'll come back off one strip of the highway. We'll come back with about 90 to 100 tires in one trip.
Wow.
And so depending on time, we have to go and gather them every day or when we're working on it, but we usually have a good supply of tires. And the big truck tires we use too, so to get fewer of those, but they're larger. So another piece of the school is the fact that well, this is one of our cisterns, our newest cistern that holds 42,500 gallons of water. A big problem in Guatemala and this part of the world is that half the year is the rainy season, the other half of the year is the dry season. So during the rainy season, there's water available all the time. Most people don't have water with pipes that come to their home. So when there's water available, they need to go gather it from like a central place within the community. And so one thing that we would like to provide as well is rainwater harvesting, which is what we have at the school. All of our roofs are capable of collecting water, and then we have but water storage is really the main piece of it too. So people can have water throughout the rainy season, but then in the dry season it's pretty difficult to get water, or it takes a lot of time, and it's not always available. And so with this cistern, we've been able to collect enough water through the rainy season, and hopefully it lasts us through most of the dry season at least. But we can fill up a cistern like this 2, 3, 4 times over during the rainy season with the amount of rain that we get.
How many people does that support?
Well, just school operations right now. So during the day, 150 people plus are at the school. And then we also have a water filtration system that was donated to us by an organization, so we can filter all of our own rainwater into clean drinking water. And so we're actually going to start that this year, is to provide that for the community. The last few years that we've had the system, we've only been able to really supply our own people, like I said, 150 people plus a day. So yeah, so this cistern, a lot of people said we couldn't do it, but we did it with the tires as the structure, and this is part of the retaining wall behind it. And then this got poured with cement to create the tank on the inside. And on top of this is where our library is. Oh, that's not our library, but so this is another type of trash that we use is glass bottles. As you can see, it creates sort of this stained glass feature. What we do usually is we cut the glass bottles in half and then put the 2 bottoms of the glass bottles together so that we can put them in the ceiling or in the wall to create natural light. So most of our buildings during the daytime, we don't even need to turn on a light bulb because the natural light is enough, and it's beautiful. Even in the rainy season when it's cloudy out, it's still bright enough to bring in light into the classrooms. This is the roof of our library that was built on top of the cistern, and this roof itself has about over 2,000 glass bottles in the ceiling.
What are the pieces that come into it?
These are the structural beams that go across the. It's a big dome, so it's cement, ferro cement, yeah. Other types of trash that we've used are plastic bottle shingles, which are literally just empty liter bottles cut up and nailed right into the ceiling or into the roof. And then that was working so well, so we decided to try it with cans too. So crushed cans, which may actually last a bit longer than the plastic shingles too. Along with the rainy season, it's really been hard for us to find the right finishing on the outside of the buildings other than just using cement. So for instance, like this here is a mixture of limestone and some other materials, but it doesn't stand up during the torrential downpours of the rainy season or the very strong sun during the dry season. So this is a cheap way and basically free way to make it waterproof. So we have a pretty strong volunteer program. We've had over almost 2,000 volunteers over the last 10 years come through. We have individual volunteers that come and stay for a couple weeks to months at a time. We have groups that come down. We have several alternative breaks groups. We're actually hosting University of Maryland Hillel in a couple months for the third year in a row. And so we also have groups from Guatemala City and Antigua and some of the other local private schools that will come up and do a service day with us. So this was about 40 students or so from one of the schools from the city, and they bring trash. So they bring tons and tons of trash with them because that's the way that they can help provide as well. And a lot of schools are really interested in what you can do with trash. We're really the only ones trying to repurpose it in this way. Everybody in our community has to bring in trash as a part of being part of us. So all of our students have to bring it as a part of their tuition. All of our employees have to bring it in as a part of their contract for being with us. Mainly what they bring is what's here is called eco bricks. So they're plastic bottles that are stuffed with single-use plastic and then become so compact that they are basically a brick. And so we use them as filler with a lot of the walls and different parts of construction. So for here, you can see this is part of our septic system that we built the tank for, but they're layering it with the eco bricks and filling it in the fences. Anywhere we can fit the trash and hide it from being polluted in the streets or in the rivers is our goal. So another thing that's important to us is the female aspect of right now we actually have in our upper school students, we have majority women students, which is a pretty big deal for having girls that are going to school at that age and continuing their education. Another big thing for us was that we had our first female volunteers or female construction workers in Comalapa. It's a pretty big deal. They would come in the morning in their traditional Mayan wear and then change into their construction clothes and then change back into their traditional clothes to go home, because it's a big thing to have a woman that's doing a real labor job, especially in construction, especially working with these crazy foreigners on the hill. Yeah, but they've been great. They've really learned a lot, and it's great to work and see them grow. And our students too, repurposing trash. So another big piece of what we're doing right now, because as I said, we're almost done constructing the school itself, but our mission is to create a self-sufficient school, sustainable school. So it's not just about the fact that we're building a space for them, but it's also more about the fact that we're giving them the education that they need to get jobs when they get out, or to give them the skills that they need to create their own jobs, or to find appropriate ones. And so what we're doing right now is actually our middle school teachers are building a curriculum that is based off of democratic education, and it's project-based. So starting in 7th grade through 12th grade, they'll be learning a different problem that faces their community and their families and the world, and then through all of their courses actually be able to get the education and the skills to build a solution for that problem at the end of the year. So for instance, in 7th grade, they'll be learning about respiratory illnesses, and then in their science class, they'll learn about the issue of pollution, and then in their math class, they'll learn about the construction math that's needed to build a smoke-efficient stove. And then at the end of the year, they will build a smoke-efficient stove for a family that they've identified in their social studies courses through surveys that they've done in the community. So providing the infrastructure that's needed for families in the community and this sort of development, while also giving them the skills that they need, the critical thinking skills to actually go through and find a problem and then create a local solution for it. And that's what we really found is missing in the education side. I mean, probably for most places in the world as well. So that's what our middle school teachers are working on right now, and they've finished
Where are the middle school teachers from?
From Comalapa, yeah.
So where do they get the?
So our
to train them?
yeah, so our executive director Matt, just finished his master's thesis on educational philosophy, and so through his thesis and his work, he's sort of guiding them through the process. But they're creating it based on the basic curriculum of Guatemala and sort of adding to it and
Are there
implementing it.
certifications? Is that, I mean, the level of the teachers who are at your school? I understand what you're saying about the entire environmental aspect,
Mhm.
and what the goal of, or the mandate of the school is how is whatever the regular curriculum for Guatemala is exactly the same in terms of sort of grade levels?
Yeah.
What, reading and writing?
Yeah, so all of our middle school teachers are specialized in different subjects. The way the education system works there is that after they're done with 9th grade, they go into a specialty school, like a career high school. And so most of them are teachers, but they also have specialties on top of that for different subjects. That's what they teach in our school. We actually went and presented this new curriculum that they've been developing to the National Curriculum Board in Guatemala, and they were really excited about it, but basically the fact that they've built off of the national curriculum is what we can do, but they still need to follow the national curriculum standards, which is quite frustrating when we want to change and improve it, but yeah, understandable. So our teachers, it's a learning process for them too, to be able to go through this curriculum development. Most of them are not specialized in building curriculum, so it's a new skill for all.
Are they degreed, or they just have to finish high school? What's the requirement there?
For teaching, you have to finish, basically their high school is a teaching degree, and then there's other courses past that most of them have accomplished. Yeah. And so so each of the grades, so right now they're working on finishing the 8th grade, and they'll keep going until we finish through 12th grade. And this last year was the first year that we've actually gone into the community and built a stove and a water tank for 2 different families. And so this next year, building on that and improving it for the next year too, because we realized first we were going to just do a green building technical high school, and then we realized that there's not really jobs necessarily for green building, and so we really want to be able to just give them the skills to either create their own jobs or really just critical thinking skills is so key. And so we realized that through the process of green building is how you learn those critical thinking skills, because you're able to, like I said, look first, see a solution, and then work through the issues and experiment and learn from experience that how to find the solution that works best for where you are locally, and how to continually improve that. And then so along with the educational development, we're also trying to build a financial sustainability of the school too, to create self-sufficiency for the school so that we don't have to be there forever. And so our plan at the moment is to start, we're really excited about starting this Green Building Academy. We're going to be hosting our first one in May, and then again in July. And basically the academy will be about 30 to 50 people from all across the world, and we'd like to do nonprofit angle on it as well. So anybody will be able to learn from beginning to end on how to build your own home out of tires and other techniques. So it'll be about 40 hours in the classroom and then 120 hours on site actually building a home for a family within one of the villages. And so we'll learn all types of different techniques, the actual design of it, using earth in different ways, the structure of building your own home, power systems and electricity, and septic systems and rainwater harvesting and septic, all different natural processes as well. So it's a really great learning experience for anybody that wants to do it, but it will also help us to keep the school financially sustainable and also to be able to keep people employed by doing this throughout the year.
How widespread is the building technique that you guys are using? Is it something that you guys have developed in that area, or is this something that a lot of different people, a lot of different countries are using?
There's been a lot of, we learned it through other people that have done it before. So there's a organization called Rutchik Biotexture that was a guy named Mike Reynolds that started in New Mexico back in the 70s, building with tires and glass bottles. And so he's developed it through in the desert in New Mexico, but now we've been able to take those techniques. He's written several manuals and that's where our construction manager has learned these kind of techniques and kind of developed them and other ones in different ways. But there's a few organizations out there doing building in all parts of the world. Yeah, that too. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. So yeah, so that's a long way home. So yeah,
That's pretty cool.
So they can get your website?
Yeah, it's upstairs.
Get it, and while Robin goes and gets her business card, so you all have her website. The part of what we're doing, what I've been doing, Jan and I've been doing the last week and a half for her, is just getting her exposure to a number of organizations. I had her speak to 2 different Rotary clubs. Rotary's very interested in this project now. There's some potential for some grants. A colleague of mine in business is meeting with the president of Liberia today, and he's talking to him about Long Way Home as a project there in their country. They have a huge surplus of tires, and that's probably one of the biggest problems in our world is the surpluses of rubber tires. So, you never know where people might know someone, their contact, and a thought process. They are a 501c3, but equally important, they qualify for working with NGOs and some of our own federal agencies. The same person who's meeting with Liberia is taking this to the Clinton Foundation this week in hopes that they'll put on the table a few scholarships for people from other parts of the world to come to the academy. So it takes all levels of contact to think through. Please reach out to Robin if you have an idea for somebody that she can work with. Don't want to be too great so that she ends up staying there too long, but she's making an impact in all honesty, and it's so great to see. And I thank you for coming out. We're not leaving. We're
Have
here.
you thought about this for Puerto Rico, for all the damage and destruction that's been done? The hurricanes and their infrastructure is
Yes.
so bad.
So part of the nonprofit angle on the academy, for me, I would love to see people from other organizations that would like to start other organizations using these type of techniques, because it is great for with relief, that places that need relief homes, and the thing is that it's not the fastest building technique, but it will last a lot longer and it's a lot cheaper to build. So the way I see it is that it's perfect for places that have been hit by earthquakes, like in Mexico and Puerto Rico, or hurricanes. And so we also started to work with an organization that is now doing shack replacement in South Africa. And so to be able to provide the education so that other people can continue doing it and do those type of housing relief.
What's the origin? What's
Sorry.
sorry?
That's okay.
What's the origin of the name Long Way Home?
It's actually a song that our original
Oh,
team liked.
I
he's
know.
from Texas, and so it's a country song. Yeah, but it worked. Yeah.
What is the tuition charge for the academy?
For the academy, is going to be $3,000 for a month, including housing and meals.
I was gonna ask about whether all the students also have whether they're local kids that.
All of the students that go to our school are all from the neighborhood and surrounding neighborhoods where the school is. When we have students apply for the school, we try to keep the classes at about 18 to 20 students max. And so we choose students that have either been with us for years and will be continuing, or will be live closest to where we are and most economically need it. Because even though we are private school, we're actually still one of the most affordable schools, even more so than public schools in the area.
How much do they pay for tuition?
They pay 25 quetzales a month, which is about $2 or $3, plus trash.
Plus trash.
Yeah. And there's been times where we've had to actually, some students, because a lot of times we'll have families with multiple kids going to the school, and so it can be rough for some families to afford it throughout the year. And so what we've done in the past is have them bring in more trash instead of the money. But we had one student ask if she could pay more so she didn't have to bring in trash, and we're like, no. No.
Where do they go?
Yeah. So the idea is that it should be enough trash that it should be what their family is using on a weekly basis. So they have to bring in one eco brick per week, really. And so the idea is that it should be the management of their home, of their home's trash that they bring to us, rather than going to the dump or burned.
They're all of their recycling.
Yeah, basically, that's the idea.
But if they have more than one kid, they have 3 kids going.
Yeah, well, there's tons of trash. They could also pick it up off the streets or ask their neighbors. I mean, that to me is what they should be doing. Yeah.
Is there specific trash that you take and not others, or?
Well, it depends on what we're working on at the time. So generally, we'll always accept the eco bricks, but we really don't use them as much anymore. So what we've also used is styrofoam we collect because that's really popular, being used for everything, and cans or glass bottles as well. The thing with glass is that they have deposits on it, so you usually return it to the store, so it's not quite as available. But yeah, so it's.
Robin, is there any downside to like the tires, like gases they produce that for like you said, the health problems?
Yeah, exactly. So there have been some studies on off-gassing of tires, but the thing is that it's because most of the tires are within walls, so they're covered with siding. They aren't seen by the sun all day, so that prevents the off-gassing, and it's pretty minimal. But there are some studies that say that there are.
Yeah, I think it's a very inventive approach to solving a real practical necessity, and just so you know, there was something in the Washington Post, I think it was last week, about the urge of major cities like New York and what have you to have a real trash problem about how to use the trash in some kind of sustainable way and manage it, because it is unmanageable. Not
Yeah.
just New York, they decided
Yeah.
six different cities. And
Yeah.
the other thing, I think, in The Economist last week or the week before, there was a whole new article on innovative approaches to recycling, which is an innovative approach to what you're doing here. So those two things are in vogue right now, and I think what your father alluded to about the need for more public outreach to explain what you're doing
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Well, we are keeping, there have been, there's only one report that I know of that has done actual testing on tires, for the off-gassing wise. But it's definitely something that we would like to have more reports of and keep tested. I mean, we keep as much data as we can about everything, so that if somebody did want to go back and report. I mean, Guatemala doesn't exactly have the organizations to do those kinds of testings on a regular basis, nor would they really do it to the right standard, I believe. But that's also one of the issues why it is a viable material structures to do in all places in the world, but there's a lot of building code that goes around it because they haven't done it, for instance, like in the US. But there are some places that have done it through this other organization, Earthship Biotecture, that does homes. And so they have a engineering and environmental report on when they just do those homes, but it's like $50,000 just to get the reports.
How many people are in the academy? Or how many students do you take for each session in the academy?
So this will be our first academy. We're hoping to get about 40 students.
And then you said something about it providing employment. So is it the students and then people from the community help with the labor?
So it would be our current construction workers, sort of as both teachers and on-site help and doing the labor of the home.
So the 40 people or so in the program
would be
supplementing.
Yeah,
their
would
working
be
and whatever, but then supplementing the labor.
Yeah, exactly. So it supplements the labor and the materials and everything to build the house itself.
Supplement the materials.
With financial to buy the materials. Yeah.
Can you describe the geography of where you are? Is it all urban or is it rural? How far are you from the nearest town? What's transportation like?
So where we are, we're right outside the urban part of Comalapa, but Comalapa is made up of an urban center and then about 15 villages that surround it for up to about 20 or so kilometers outside. We are about 10-minute walk from this center, but we are on like dirt roads going out there, so it's starting to get more rural. It's more mountainous where we are. We're up on a plateau about 7,000 feet, 7,000 feet, and so about a half hour or so from the highway, and so it's not exactly on the way anywhere. It's about to come to where we are. It's about a half hour ride down and around the mountains to get to the community where we're at. Yeah.
Do you have any schools that do broad programs with you?
Yeah, we have a few dozen schools that have done alternative breaks and some other study abroad. Not quite study abroad because we don't have like the credits available, but we do internships and all that kind of stuff if the schools provide the resources for it. Yes, Mother.
Robin, in the morning when the children come to school, they get smoothies. Can you explain how that process came about? Because I thought that story was fascinating.
Thanks. About 2 years ago, we had a study done by a Guatemalan anthropology student that came and studied all of our students and their families and on many different topics. And so one of the things that she found was about a third of our students were coming to school in the morning without anything in their stomachs, like no breakfast or maybe a little cafecito, which is like watered down coffee and sweet bread. And so we decided to start a smoothie program, a licuado program, and we gave fruit smoothies to all of the students every morning. We don't do it anymore. We just did it that 1 year because there were a lot of things that we learned through that process. But we hope that we can start it up again. But it was actually really beautiful. We got a committee of 12 different mothers and parents that came in, and they would come in every single morning, cut up all the fruit and put it all together, and then we went back and forth about if they need to put greens and other nutrients in it, and so we tried to kind of make that a requirement, and that wasn't really really set out very well, and the mothers just didn't really understand that was a necessary part of it. And then we tried to get them not to use sugar, but the sugar thing was so it was a learning process for all of us. But it was really beautiful to see, like, the mothers themselves were the ones that put it all together and organized it and came and actually donated all the cups and found a blender and everything. And so it was really great. And we did provide smoothies for all 120 students at the time every morning. Yeah.
I'm just curious also about the general nutrition down in the area, like what typical diets are like.
So there's actually a lot of vegetables and fruits that are available from different, and the whole area is agriculture is a huge part of a lot of the work that's there, and so a lot of that's available, but most of the nutrition is rice and beans, a lot of chicken. A lot of people have some of their own small animals, so chickens or bunnies or birds, and some people will have a pig or a cow, but that's a little bit bigger. But majority of it's not really malnutrition, but it's a lot of sugar, and a lot of everything has sugar in it, and not just sugar that we know. It's like a cup of sugar per anything. And so there's a lot of sugar and a lot of salt and lack of greens and
So
sort
that
of
creates health
iron
issues as
yeah,
well.
exactly.
So yeah, is any of the education that's provided? I mean, obviously, so much of this is geared towards building. Is some of it provided towards
nutrition?
Yeah.
So we're starting to work on that now. Hoping to have more kind of workshops, local workshops for anybody in the community to sort of come through, and we can do things like nutrition or PT or how to back health too. That's a big issue for people that are working all day, and so a lot of that is starting to come through now as we find people that can come and teach these sort of
For my own
workshops.
curiosity, you mentioned a smoke efficient stove. What is that?
So it's
I don't fully understand it.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Most of the homes actually just build over an open fire and put a grill on top. And so a lot of times sometimes it's outside of the home, but a lot of times it's still inside the home. So really a smoke efficient stove or a rocket stove, I guess some people say too, is just a stove top and then the correct ventilation that goes.
That's what I was going to ask too about.
Out.
When it's indoors,
yeah,
you have to ventilate.
And so you really only have to use like a few pieces of wood rather than an entire fire to build. So that helps too, because most people, part of the cycle of poverty is having to go and cut down your own wood and then spend an entire day collecting and transporting your wood back to the home. And so, and deforestation that goes along with that too. So,
so it's really not just smoke efficient; it's wood efficient.
Wood efficient,
right.
yeah, too.
It's
Yeah,
okay,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's the idea.
Are you on an electric?
We have solar panels, but we are still connected to the grid right now. Working on hopefully getting some more solar panels. Right now we are powering about 7 to 8 of our buildings out of the 15, 16 with solar. But there's been some issues with it because
along those lines, I just want to ask too, because with all the building materials you're talking about, especially tires and things like that. Now, I mean, the temperature down there, the climate has to be pretty warm in the summer and in the summer months.
Yeah.
And I assume pretty much warm or moderate throughout.
Yeah.
But do any of those building materials either retain heat or shed heat?
All do. Yeah, they all do. So, and because of the thickness of the walls too, it absorbs the heat during the day and then releases it at night. So it does stay pretty temperate throughout the year.
So inside, you don't have really hot temperatures.
Yeah,
inside,
no,
right?
none of the classrooms are really hot. If anything, they are cool. Stay cooler than the outside.
I would think with the dirt especially, because I guess is there a way for the dirt that's inside the tires? I mean, does that pick up moisture? Because that would also help cool the inside. I just don't know. I mean, it's you know,
That's a
I
good
just don't know if it's something they thought of. Because certainly, like with Adobe bricks, I know from our house in Arizona, the Adobe collects moisture, and that keeps the house cool even in 120 degrees.
Yeah, so that's probably part of the technical aspect of that.
It does work. I mean, it's
yeah, for sure. Cool.
Robin, what kind of medical resources are available for you down there for these kids?
So there's a free clinic in town, but that's super basic. There's a couple doctors. We actually just had a nurse that was working with us for about a year, and so I learned a lot about how lacking the education of even the doctors and everything are. We have a couple times had groups of doctors and some other medical professionals that have come down and helped either students or teachers or people in the community. But even, something like a dentist too, we could use.
I know I'm retired.
With all that sugar that they
and it was pretty incredible. We had some people come down not too long ago, and I found out that only 2 of our students in a couple of our pre-primary school grades actually have toothbrushes in their home. And so and we've been doing a lot on like washing your hands, learning about hygiene and germs, starting from the very basics of all of it. And so it's still needed for sure.
If they're having all that sugar and there's only 2 kids with
toothbrushes.
Yeah,
a lot of the kids have like fillings, like gold fillings. It's really a lot of kids and adults too, obviously.
But Robin, you can go to the pharmacy and buy over-the-counter things, right?
Everything is over the counter.
Probably no prescription necessary.
No prescription necessary. Pick up antibiotics wherever you need it, which is not great at all. But it's good for me.
Yeah, I know.
Stand up and go to the pharmacy.
The what?
Where do you have to go? How far do you have to go?
Oh, there's several pharmacies in town. I can find most of the prescription stuff that's needed.
In your CVS clinic.
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Cool.
And then curiosity to the affordability of medication.
Yeah, a lot of it's pretty expensive. That's actually what a lot of families struggle with, is when there's no health insurance, so when they have to buy prescription or pills or medications is usually when it becomes really, really hard to handle finances.
How long have you been there?
Almost 3 years now. Yeah.
Are you staying down there?
I'm staying for a little bit longer. Yeah. I love it. I at least want to make sure this academy is up and running, and and so it's great.
Sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Exactly what you
So, not sure yet. I want to stay involved with the project, but just ready to. Yeah. We'll see.
Do families have pretty good access to clothing, or is there any need for?
Clothing is actually really accessible. There's a lot of secondhand clothes and stuff. Most of the women actually in the community wear the traditional clothes. So, but there is a lot of
So I know in poverty or in areas affected by poverty or where income's difficult, especially in third world countries, shoes become a big problem.
Shoes are a big problem. That's true. Clothing wise is not so much, but a lot of the shoes for the kids too. And we actually had somebody come and donate a pair of shoes to all of our students a couple months ago, which was really beautiful.
That's what Tom's does.
Yeah, so we have we've been working with an organization that sends down a suitcase of Tom's shoes.
Oh,
and,
so it is, yeah, so, okay. 'Cause
yeah, and they paint them and color them and you
Right.
give them to the kids and everything. So that's been.
I just always encourage people to buy those. I have no stock in it.
Yeah.
Because every time you buy a pair, they donate a pair. And I
Yeah.
think
It's
it's
interesting
great.
though.
It's
I've
that?
heard
cool.
I've heard bad things about it. I've heard that they kill the local economies on the fringes because they only give it to the fringe places, but the people who really need it, they don't necessarily go into the places that really need it, and it actually kills some of the local economy that does that
Interesting,
stuff.
because a lot of, if you look at their website in terms of the places they do visit, and again, it's probably all about research and knowing what the economies are locally.
Yeah.
They usually find the most outlying regions where there is no access, and that's usually where they donate. But that's what again, that's just what I've seen. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks again, everybody, for all your attention. I just spent the last 6 months to a year so redesigning our website, so I hope you check it out. and feel free to let me know what you think.